All right,
One
guys.
chair at a time.
Hello, everyone out there in Facebook land, YouTube land, and Twitch land. I am Michael Gracia, and welcome to a Getting TOON panel at the Northeast Comic-Con. The show guaranteed not boring with free parking. Come on over. I got a great show today. I am hanging out with Tim Jones, who's right behind me, and over here, Guy Gilchrist, two amazing cartoonists, and we're going to talk about comics in the modern era today. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. We'll be here for about 45 minutes, and I'm going to be off screen.
Parking.
Yes, free parking. Make sure you come just for that. And come see us. There's a lot of great people at this show this weekend over in Boxborough, Massachusetts. We are at the Regency Hotel and Convention Center. So let us start. I want to first say thank you guys for coming and doing this panel here. I'm looking forward to chatting with both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Anytime. Now, Tim, you've been on my show Getting TOON before, and I'm a big fan of your stuff. And Guy, I've been knowing your stuff for so long.
Pretty much your whole life?
Yeah. I think so. So
that's his way of saying I should be taking a dirt nap.
No. I want you to keep going as long as the pencil can keep moving, you know?
It's moving faster than ever these days.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. So for the audience who's not familiar with you, Guy, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, and then Tim, you can tell us about yourself.
Well, in the syndicated world or in all of the worlds that I...
However, whatever you want to do. I mean, we're talking cartoons, so if you want to focus on cartoons, but you can throw in extra.
I've had 9 syndicated comics. The ones that you would know, if you're incredibly old like me, you would know that I did the Muppets comic strip based on the Muppet Show from 1981 to 1986. I'm known as Jim Henson's cartoonist because of that. We were in every country in the world in Indian languages. There were a lot of other strips like Mud Pie, Your Angels Speak, Nightlights and Pillow Fights, quite a few. Screams, Poetry Guy, but also for almost 23 years, I did Nancy and Sluggo. So that's my syndicated story. And then I guess I've worked on an awful lot of television properties, being an art director, an illustrator, running either licensing or publishing, including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons, Minnie Mouse, Ariel, Tom and Jerry, Pink Panther, lots of Disney properties,
wow,
and lots of other ones. And then my own with Warner Brothers, I had the Tiny Dinos, and also Mud Pie has had 9 books. So a few things.
Definitely sounds like it. Tim, how about you tell us a little bit about you?
I'm the creator and artist and writer and all that stuff for Sour Grapes, which is a self-syndicated comic strip, and it's in newspapers across the country. And I've also done other comic strips in the past. A strip called Every Blue Moon, which was in the early 90s. And I did a comic strip that was published in called Job Shop, that was published in the mid-2000s. And then Sour Grapes started up around 2014 or so. And so far, so good.
Yeah, and by the way, congratulations. Self-syndication is very difficult. So
Difficult.
that is a hard thing to do, and that you're doing it. I'm thrilled to hear about that.
Thank you.
And you're now in, you said 37 newspapers.
37, yeah, I just got into Oklahoma.
And that's really hard, my first endeavor into self-syndication was the Nightlights feature that ran on Sundays, and then eventually we were a daily with Mud Pie. That was like in about 1998 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did exactly what you're doing, but you have very few, many more obstacles because there are even less papers these days. So the fact that you're in 37 is a tribute to you. God bless you.
Oh, thank you very much. you know, 90% of them are weekly
Sure,
comics. I mean, weekly newspapers.
like the community ones and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, and they're good sized ones. They're not a couple, 3 pages. They're, they're good sizes. And, I've noticed that there are a lot of them, to be honest with you. More on that level than there are like the daily, the big ones and stuff like that we're all used to and stuff. So, and those have, community-based news that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Well, when newspapers started leaving us, and when I started in 1981 with Muppets, everybody was saying it was the end of the paper, and then when I was self-syndicating, even with Nancy, when I took over Nancy in '95, there were many fewer papers. I always said, though, once I started self-syndicating, I was saying the papers that are going to remain are going to be the ones that are refrigerator and scrapbook worthy. The ones that show, the bake sale, the Cub Scouts, the soccer games, the softball games, say who's graduating high school, all of that kind of stuff. Those community papers, the weeklies that you're in, they're going to hang around because there's never going to be a time that people aren't going to want to be able to pick something up and say, my kid is in the paper.
Right.
Yeah, no, and that's smart. I didn't even think of it that way. I tried self-syndication years ago myself. It didn't work out for me. I look back now and I realize my strip wasn't ready for it. It's something I'm thinking about doing in the future. And I'm going to pick your brain when that time comes because you're doing it now. But yeah, it's something I have attempted. I understand the process and I know how difficult it is because I have failed at it. And you learn from your mistakes. So I'm thrilled to hear when someone succeeds at it.
The main thing that the main part of being successful at it. I mean, we eventually had. I wound up being at the time. I don't know what it is now, but. When I reached 102 newspapers with Nightlights and the Daily Mud Pie, I was the most successful self-syndicated thing that there had been. And, I didn't do it all by myself. I hired a person that daily, faxed people out because it was kind of, computers were, we were on the we were on the computers and we were sending emails, but the fastest way to get your stuff to somebody was to fax it to them so that they could take a look, say, okay, and they pay you $5 a week. You negotiate and do all of that. Also the billing and everything, back then was done by fax. But yeah, when we got into 102 papers, I mean, oh my God, when I hit 50, I was thrilled. It's a really, really tough business. And the most important part of it is that, like anything else you do in art or in life, you have to absolutely love what you're doing because you're not going to be paid for the love that you're going to put into this. If you look at it strictly monetarily, it's not going to happen for you. Over time, it can. It can pan out.
Now, let me ask you, I know you have a question. I'm sorry. I just want to ask before I forget it. You said you started self-syndicating in '98. How long did it take you to get to those 102 papers?
Actually, not very long. I think it was by 2003.
Okay.
We had 101. Well, what we did was when I hit, I got into around 30 or so. And what I was finding was that people wanted a daily. I had to have a reason to do a daily. The other thing was I already was doing a daily. I was doing Nancy, not for nothing, right?
Yeah.
And also I had just sold to United Features Your Angels Speak, which was just a one panel once a week but it was a painted strip, and it was a religious strip.
Wow.
And they were, they were kind of heavy duty illustrations.
Mhm.
So it took me a long time to do that. But I said, well, when the Boston Herald and several other large papers said that they wanted a daily from me, I negotiated a good price for the dailies, and I agreed to do them, with in the back of my mind saying, I can do anthologies, I can do collections, I can do merch. This is da 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 da. And so I took the Mud Pie character that had been in children's books and had been part of the daily feature, the Sunday feature,
Mhm.
and made a daily out of it. And we all of a sudden, because we had like the Miami Herald, we had the Boston Herald, we had a few really big ones.
Yeah.
We did well. We did well. But I used to do everything. I would go to like the Hispanic newspaper publishers convention in Miami, and I would offer the strip in Spanish. And I did everything that there was. I came from years of syndication.
Yeah.
So I knew how King Features and United did it. Now, I couldn't afford their sales force or anything like that, but I could use the same general tactics and ideas that they used. And so that's what I did.
Interesting. That's good. Did you have a question, or you wanted to say something?
Well, I just want to say, I don't have a we. I would love to have a we.
Yeah.
And so I could sit here and say, we did this and we did that. So I do everything from soup to nuts for the strip, so it's that much more difficult.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I would love to, and I actually considered, getting someone to get on that horse and just go with it.
It's okay. You
Maybe
can
my
say
sales guy.
the sales. I thought you were
Listen.
talking about a we story, because actually, just you and I talked about doing a strip together, and just my schedule isn't allowing it right now.
No.
But
I'm
I
talking
thought that's
about
what you
the
were talking
business
about.
side of it, trying to get into more papers and stuff. I would love to have someone, be that guy or girl,
Yeah.
and do that legwork for me. But I set aside certain times to do the phone calls.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I hate doing emails because I know for a fact that editors get thousands and thousands of emails.
Sure.
And, so I like to have that relationship with the editors and give them a phone call. And I think they appreciate that.
Oh, they do. And the we, just so that you know, it would be that, back then we had editor and publisher, we had all of these, these resources. I had a girl that worked 2 days a week, and the only job that she had was to follow up, because any sale that we ever made, I would have to have gotten on the phone. They want to talk. You're absolutely right. They want to talk to the creator, and they want to have that personal relationship. And you have to really, truly, to make it in anything, including syndication, be a born salesman, or not a born salesman, but make yourself into a salesman. If you can't sell it, then it's not going to get sold.
Right.
You have to do it yourself.
Smart. It's true too. So let me just go to my notes that I have here.
He has notes.
I
Yeah.
do. I make sure to be organized here. I like that. But before I do that, if anyone who's watching at home has questions, please put them in the comments. I'll be happy to ask. If anyone in the audience has any questions right now, I'll be happy to take them. No? Okay. Well,
They'll think of something.
yeah, they will. People at home do. Actually, we have a comment from. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to turn the camera away. The Izzy verse. Hey, Izzy, he says, "What's up, Michael? Enjoy the show." Well, the show's doing great. I'm having a great time here, and this is my first panel with Guy Gilchrist and Tim Jones. And like I said, I'm a fan of both of them, so I'm super excited. I have a weekend full of panels here, and I'm gonna be doing this all weekend, having a great time. But let's get back to the notes here. So one of the things that the panel is about is actually comics in the modern age. We kind of were talking a little bit about that. We kind of started because you were mentioning how newspapers are kind of we're dwindling a bit.
Not kinda.
Yeah. Oh no, they are. They are. I know. I'm being polite. I'm being polite, but they.
No, because if we are talking about the business, then
Yeah.
we should square it up.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, they're disappearing. I used to work for a newspaper. And
Well, I'm not doing this happily. I
Yeah.
mean, this has been my entire life.
no, and I understand that. I have a lot of friends who are cartoonists, who are syndicated cartoonists, and I've seen things, them, papers dying and them losing papers and having to find other ways. Now, one of the biggest things that happened, especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, was the boom of the webcomic. And with the webcomics, it took a while, I think, for syndicated comics to kind of jump on the website, webcomic bandwagon. Because I know
Well, you know why? There was no way to monetize it.
that's
All the webcomics weren't making anything.
Yeah.
Out of 1,000 webcomics, two things would, what was a webcomic trying to do? Get syndicated.
Yeah, exactly.
Newspapers. There really wasn't a good monetization model, and until there was, when finally there was a huge audience that these micro, the click with 0.00001% of a cent
Mhm.
started to make sense. That's when it got monetized. So that was the change. It's always, by the way, everything is driven by money.
Yes.
When you sell a strip to a newspaper, you sell a newspaper based on the popularity of your feature, how many big papers are you in, and what is your readership?
Yeah.
Because the readership on the internet or in a newspaper, whatever the readership is of that website is going to tell you how much you're going to make, per week on the feature.
So with that in mind, and I know you post on your stuff on Facebook, you have an Instagram account where you really do your posting. What is it, and either of you can answer, but what do you think is the way I don't want to use the word web comics. I like the term comics. I don't care where they are. Comics being done through the computer is, for someone who, there's a lot of people out there who've read the books when they were kids, Calvin and Hobbes, the Peanuts, whatever. They had the collection of Garfield, and their dream was to be a self-syndicated or just a syndicated cartoonist. I know Tim had the dream. I had the dream, and a lot of people do. And now with the difficulty of getting into newspapers, difficulty of syndication, what do you think, online presence wise, and I'm not just talking, like Instagram or something, how are people, doing comics these days? And I'm not talking illustration product, like getting them out there to an audience through the web in any form, social media or whatever, and still making a living off of it.
Well, this is my idea. Now I changed, when I took on Nancy, I did something that wound up really working out. Instead of me thinking of Nancy as one long strip like this, every single strip I would cut it right in half, okay? And then, so I would either have 2 panels, 4 panels, or whatever, but there was always a break right in the center. The reason I did that was so that you could take the first part of the strip and stack it above the second part of the strip, okay? And you can make a box out of it or run it this way.
Yeah.
My feeling was, as papers were getting to be less and less and less, that I wanted to give the option of being able to run it as a box. And I think I mentioned that to you at one point, to talking to you about ways that you could maybe get into more papers to do that. Well, that wound up being a beneficial thing, because when we got on the web and people were scrolling, it was difficult to go this way on a phone. Okay,
Yeah.
not on a computer. On a computer, it's easy. You go like this way, but on a phone, you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nancy wound up being popular on the phone. because of that. Then, but the syndicate said you have to add color. Nobody will read a black and white comic anymore. It can't just be color on Sunday.
Yeah.
My feeling now with the way that things are, and I'm out of the syndication business, and I have been since February of 18. Okay. But I look at how things are going, and if I was you guys starting out trying to figure out how to make comics your life and make $1 at it, what I'd be doing is I'd be animating the strip, and I'd be having color, and I would be adding music, I would be adding sound. TikTok is your model. If you can figure out a way to have a strip that goes click, 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 is read to them, has music, has whatever, if it's a pantomime strip, is it whatever it is, that you can grab in 15 seconds, which is about the time that people will read a strip, is 15 seconds.
Mhm.
Not on your phone, but
Yeah.
that was in commuters back in the 40s too.
Yeah.
My feeling is that the person that creates that, whatever that is, because that's not going to be me. I'm out of syndication. After 40 years, I'm all good. Love you guys. I'm all good. People always say, "Oh, gee, Guy, when are you going to do another strip?" And I'm like, never. And it's not that I didn't love. I absolutely did love it, but I had 40 years of it. But I feel like not just the future, but the now. If I was working in it now and I was self-syndicating now, what I just told you,
Mhm.
that's what I would be doing.
Okay. All right. And so when you're saying, I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah.
When you're talking like animation, you're not talking like full motion animation.
No,
Like have the
no.
strip and maybe like slideshow it or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm talking about doing fades and
Yeah.
close-ups and everything. Animatics. Okay,
Animatics,
you can make
okay.
things. You can make things blink. You've got. Most people are drawing digitally now. Anyway,
Yeah.
you can move the character like that without doing anything.
Yeah.
There are programs that will animate. You don't know how to. You don't know. I'm not talking 16 frames a second thing.
Okay.
No. Don't. You need something that. Let's look at this.
Mhm.
We need something that's economical to manufacture, and is going to be and is going to be time effective, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be, doing something that you'll be storing all of those images, I'm going to presume, and you're going to sometimes use the same ones and flip them and do this and do that. I'm just thinking now about how I would go about doing it. Sorry, guys, it's the art director in me. What are you going to do? But anyway, I think that there's certainly a place for the traditional strip and the traditional art form, and I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
But I've been given this question actually, a lot of thought over the last year or so, because I try to, to look at everything that's sort of going on. And I'm interested in how can we now add movement and make that work. And Tim, I was wondering, like with your characters, have you ever thought of anything like that, to do anything like that?
Oh yeah, I've actually, met some people that I would love to have as voices for my characters and stuff, And I've also just started messing around with I made a simple GIF out of Aesop, just taking off, going into flight and stuff, and just different things. I'm starting to, get into different ways to show the strip, as opposed to just,
A static image.
Static image, yeah, good.
And I actually had a question for you, Tim, because it kind of bounces off what he's saying with the movement and stuff. Now, I've known you for a while. I know you work really traditionally you scan it into the computer, and you recently got yourself an iPad Pro and you're playing in Procreate. I saw your posts on social media, and you drew some of your characters in Procreate. Now, are you moving digital to your artwork now, or are you still doing everything traditionally? Because this is just suggestion, knowing what he's saying. Working in a program like Procreate that does handle animation and handle movement, you could probably work that out.
I wanted one so I could say I have one. First of all. Second of all, it was a good write-off. And thirdly, no, it's there. I want to move and use it as a tool, as an alternate way to do things of my strip. But I'll never leave drawing it on board and stuff. Now I'm 60/40 because eventually I have to have it into the computer, scan it in, and I do my lettering, I do the coloring there because I have to do a black and white version and a color version because some papers take either one or both.
Yeah.
And then, but I have to use that also, Photoshop to save it as a JPEG because that nowadays that's how you send the strip to the newspapers. So I'm kind of forced to have that, but that Procreate stuff on the iPad, that's like the next level for me. That's the technology, and so that would be good for some stuff, but not as a replacement. I'll never do that.
I was just curious because I know Procreate, Photoshop does animation too. I've done that. I just want to say hi to Mike Wilkie in the audience. You guys know Mike, I think, and
Hey, Mike.
He's a cartoonist as well. Been doing this forever. One of the funniest gag guys I think I know. He I had him on my show. We did a little contest. He knocked something off in like 30 seconds. I was still drawing it, and I thought I was a fast artist. So, but yeah. Okay, no, I was curious because what you're saying brings up some really good points. I've taught illustration, animation, things like that. I'm an animator, and the way you're talking about it as attacking a comic, I never thought about it, keeping it simple. I think because of my background, being an illustrator, and I go complex all the time. But the simplicity, I know the simplicity that you're saying just makes so much sense. So much sense.
Good, I'm glad.
And
I've given it a lot of thought.
Yeah, and sometimes, like being a person like me who has the background and has taught, I don't know. I sometimes skip the simple solutions because I know how to go complex.
Simple is hard.
Yeah.
No, simple is hard.
Yeah.
I remember when, when I first began in comics, I threw my whole heart and soul, and of course every line that that I could find, there was cross hatching to heaven and back, and everything. We call it. The old timers used to call it haying because it was like, they looked like hay everywhere, As I moved through my life and hopefully, kept getting better. The thing about being syndicated when you're so young and you don't know what you're doing, is unfortunately those books of your mistakes will follow you forever. Yeah. So, folks, you can see every mistake I ever made. They're all printed since I was 16.
That makes me feel better.
But as it's interesting, I did Nancy for, almost 23 years. And sometimes I would be rather complex and sometimes it'd be very simple. But the actual character of Nancy and the simplification that Ernie Bushmiller had begun with the feature was always constantly in my head. I remember when I first started in syndication, one of the things that Bill Yates, the great Bill Yates, the guy that taught me so much, the head of King Features, Bill said, Guy, Charlie Chaplin doesn't say a word, and he would make the whole world laugh. Now that was an old, idea when Bill told this to me, in 79 or 80, Charlie Chaplin, he said, the greatest jokes have no words. No words. So go from there. And that meant self-editing. And that doesn't mean just self-editing in your balloons, in your thought balloons, and in your word balloons. It also means, what are you going to keep in? What are you going to take out?
Yeah.
What's going to get the gag across, the story across, and then what's unnecessary in the fact that, and probably burdening
Mhm.
the idea getting across in the manner that you wish it to. You want something easy. You mentioned Peanuts.
Yeah.
It's incredibly brilliant and simple, and you couldn't draw it, and neither could I, because it's his handwriting.
Yeah.
I
think I read somewhere that with just speaking of Peanuts, when Bill Mendez started animating it, working for the anime, he said it was one of the hardest things he ever had to
It's
do.
incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I used to be an art director for licensing at United,
Mhm.
and one of the things and I worked on, so I would make up boards. This was before I was doing Nancy, when I was doing Tiny Dinos, and they were my licensing company. They hired me to art direct all kinds of stuff, and so I would have to draw merchandising boards in everybody's style, the hardest style. And I mean, I had to do everything from Marvel, I had to ape, Conan the Barbarian stuff and all kinds of crazy stuff, at World Almanac and, Scientific American artwork. And I had to draw all of that stuff. The hardest thing for me to do was get the Peanuts characters correct.
It is a difficult one. The only one I can actually do somewhat well is Snoopy, to be honest with you. And that's only because I teach kids how to draw it, and they love Peanuts. And I'm like, I have to get one of them down.
There you go.
Okay, I'm just looking to see no comments. All right. One of the things I want to ask, and usually do it in the beginning, but we jumped into self-syndication, was what was, and for me, I just mentioned Peanuts, which was for me a big one, but what are some of the influences you guys had? And yeah, you guys can, whoever.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well,
Tim
uh,
first.
Peanuts, of course.
Yeah.
Big time. And Garfield. Jim Davis is on my bucket list of people to meet.
Same here.
So, Johnny Hart, Wizard of ID, BC, big time. Dick Brown for Hey God the Horrible. Those comics, the simple stuff.
Yeah.
The ones that's more of on the gag side of humor and stuff. So those are my main influences, big time. And I've been lucky enough to have some pros tell me that my strip reminds them of Garfield.
That's great.
The look and the
That's
types
a very
of
nice
gags.
compliment.
And I was like,
That's great.
wow. So it's
On a side note, I just recently purchased The Art of Jim Davis, Garfield. I've been flipping through that book since I've got it. It's beautiful stuff in there. So if you can get a copy of it, if you don't have it, it's just being a
Jim's a
fan.
great guy.
Yeah, I've talked to people who know him, and they tell me great stories about him.
And talk about simplification when you look
Yeah.
at the first 2 years of Garfield versus when it became popular. Look at the change of style.
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so as far as me and influences, I guess comic strip influences you want to know? Well, because there's a totally different.
Yeah,
Because I'm kind of all over the place with stuff. So in comic strips,
Yeah.
My influences were, well, number one is Walt Kelly, and it will always be Walt Kelly.
Yeah.
And no one else should pick up a pen, not you, no one, or a brush, except for Walt Kelly, but he's not here, so that's why we get to do it. That's my opinion. The same with Milton Caniff. No one else, but he's not here, so we get to. Those are the John Cullen Murphy. I loved, but growing up, there was no way I could ever draw like him. the strips that I really got into when I was a kid, of course, I loved Beetle Bailey, and I loved Blondie and High and Lois. I loved Peanuts too, and they became much more important to me as I was getting syndicated, because I didn't know whether I didn't know I was going to go into comic strips, until I tried out,
Yeah.
for the Muppets. I was always more of a funny animal comic book guy, and that was the approach that I was taking to comic strips. And the writing of comic strips was all sort of based on Floyd Gottfredson's Mickey Mouse, and the adventure strips like Mickey Mouse had adventures.
Yeah.
It was great. By the way, I finally got to do that strip with Mud Pie. But anyway, those were huge. But as far as writing gags, I would read those paperbacks of Beetle, High and Lois, Hagar, Wizard of Id, and BC. And man, you can't get any better than that. I'll tell you, what was great art that was, no one remembers this. This strip, Rick O'Shea. Go look it up. You will feel stupid not knowing this existed. Rick O'Shea.
R-I-C-K?
Yeah, Rick O'Shea, like Ricochet. It's a Western strip. You will be totally blown out of the building on this. Okay? Yeah, Rick O'Shea.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first.
I'm gonna have to look. I have a couple of books on like the history of comic strips.
Oh,
and
it's
stuff.
in there.
It should be in there.
It's
I
in
might
there.
have just missed it.
And those strips that you mentioned were some of them were the same ones that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
In the writing and the jokes and that type of stuff, there was a rhythm.
Yeah,
There was a rhythm, and that's one of the things that influenced me in my writing.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think I've told you before in your show, is I write and draw at the same time.
Mhm.
Because I have to see it in order to get what's going on and what they're going to say, and then comes the facial expressions and mannerisms and stuff like that.
Oh, that's
then it
interesting.
becomes-
Yes, that's not how I did it.
Right, so then comes a rhythm to it, and it's a beat. My strip's 3 panels, so
Yeah.
it's boom, boom, boom. And so
Exactly, yeah.
I've gotten used to that. So
Yeah.
it's weird.
Like Garfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
And so, what was your experience writing? Like, how do you differ from? How does he work?
he's better than me.
Listen, your stuff is great. I don't think there's a strip since I've met you. I don't think there's a strip you've done that doesn't have a heart on Instagram for me, because I love everything you're doing.
Thanks.
So
Thank you for the
my ideas come from everywhere, and and sometimes it's wordplay, and sometimes it's visual. I would give myself tests all the time, thinking that what Bill said, so if you have one word, then that's one word away from perfect. And so I would try to write an entire week of strips, 7 of them, all in pantomime, using no words. I would attempt that. I have what I call the garden of ideas, where I always wrote. Of course, you write down on napkins and everything too, but I would carry those 3rd grade, black and white covered little notebooks like you get for a buck. Yeah, you get for a buck, right? Yeah, I carried those with me, and I still have, tons of them, probably from the last 15 years of the 27 years I did in Nancy. I've got those. Anyway, I would, sit down for, a half a day or something like that and write a storyline. And sometimes I'd write, I'd have a storyline over here, like where did I want my characters to go in the next 6 months? But then over here, I'd be doing sight gags and things like that. And I just, make circles and squiggles and stuff. It looks like a mental patient's like diary, okay? Like no one would understand any of it except me. Then I go back in and I filter it out, because Mort Walker taught me that how to edit, how Mort used to do things. And he had a big group of people, and I'm sure you've read the books and everything about it. And I was privileged enough sometimes to be a part of that group a couple of times. So everybody would write gags, and then they would pass them around in a circle. And on the back of the gag, you would write either a 1, a 2, or a 3. 3 meaning it was poor. 2 meaning maybe a Saturday gag, because that was where you'd stick the one that was, maybe not the greatest or a little off. And number 1 was a definite. This is a definite.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all by myself. I don't have that circle to pass around. So I would write stuff and then let it simmer over there for a while. And I'd be working on the stuff that had simmered before. So I'm always going back and trying to figure out what's going to make things work. Out of 1,000 gags that I would write, 365 would come. And that was, and in my head, I always had the number that out of 1,000, I should be able to find 365 that I loved.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was it.
It's amazing. That's a great working working process and thought process. I have something similar. I'm not going to go into it now because technically we are out of time for the show. We end in 3 minutes. I'm sorry that I'd love to continue this more. So honestly, I'm going to tell you, I'd love to have you both on my show on a regular Tuesday night at some point and just continue this conversation. But due to time constraints for panels at the show, we do have to end. Before I close up, is there anything you guys would like to say? And
Well, that's a vague question.
well, in closing.
I'm just really happy to be bringing the sour grapes to more people, to more eyes, really, to more readers and stuff, and sharing my weekly sour grapes that basically is my daily life, and bringing that to the page and stuff, bringing it to Aesop. So can I plug
Everything?
I'm going to plug sourgrapescomic.com is the website. So you can go on there and see the latest and greatest and my past episodes and stuff, and all the newspapers are on there that it's in. Maybe you live in that area, you can read it, and all kinds of other stuff. And so thanks for having us on.
Thank you. And they can follow you. There's social medias on there they can follow you on?
The social media is on there, but my Instagram is Sour Grapes 2017, and Twitter is Sour Grapes Comic.
Okay.
And then I'm on Facebook. Just look for my handsome self. And,
I will, and I do.
And you do. That's right.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful to be 65 years old and as busy as I am. It really kind of always has been a young man's game. I saw that very early on. When I was hiring people in their 60s and 70s and stuff that were like my heroes and guys that I looked up, and no one else heard of them. And these guys were brilliant. Well, I still have a very full calendar. I'm incredibly grateful to God for the blessed life that He's given me. The reason I'm a workaholic, and I've done so many things, is because my true happiness is in making you guys happy. It's a big thrill for me, always, to see a brand new product that I've put out there, or even draw a picture for you at a con. And see that it's made you happy. That's been my entire life. I wouldn't have the blessed life I have without every single one of you. So thank you.
All right. And you guys, I'm just going to turn it towards me real quick. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry for my angle. Mike Wilkie says, thanks for sharing this with us. You're very welcome. Tune in tomorrow. I don't have time on top of my head, but you can find them on my social media. I'm talking with Keith Williams about classic comic characters. Going back, he worked on the Phantom. He's worked on Superman. Great guy. You're gonna love it. I'm also talking with Tim Clark and Joe Sazu And that's it, guys. I will see you guys soon. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye.